Wasn't this just nice? New year, new things, new stuff on the channel, new way to explore this whole YouTube thing. Yeah, that was the best I got for an intro. Anyway, Dragon God here to talk about Final Fantasy 15. Now, my thoughts on Final Fantasy 15. If you need an exact critique and analyzation of the game down to every nook and cranny of every thought pattern in every single speech text line in the game, here it is. It's about a 7 out of 10. It's pretty okay, but it's got its issues and flaws. But if you have the time to actually listen to a comedic way of talking about it, please continue watching. Now, Final Fantasy 15 is my first technical entry into the Final Fantasy series. Although I have watched all the stories up until Final Fantasy 15, I do know none of them really intermingle with each other. That way, it's rather easy for new arrivals to the Final Fantasy series to get involved. For the longest time, all I knew about was about Cloud, Tifa, and Chocobo. If you didn't know who any of those characters are, I would advise you look up any Final Fantasy picture. Final Fantasy 15 has often been described, I've heard, as a very dark take on the Final Fantasy series. And after playing the game myself and looking at all the emo characters as well as all the edgy subject matter and all the horrible dark plot holes of missing context and characters and lore, I can see why it got that name. My issues with the narrative tend to string from one of two things. Either something is not explained entirely or at all, or something is explained and is not talked about. You know, just like that dumb dare generally people are asked in college to run around the entire campus naked for your sorority or something stupid like that. You know, common desperate stuff. For example, the Hadrian or Hadrian, as they will call the gods sometimes, will also be interchanged with their real names, such as Titan or Leviathan. However, in the Leviathan's case, they mention Hadrian multiple times and do not reference Leviathan in any way being the Hadrian until later when you're about to fight Leviathan. At this point, I knew more about the Hadrian Collider than I did the Hadrian God they were talking about repeatedly. And that's saying something considering I've only looked up the Hadrian Collider for school. I think it's STEM. I don't know. It's somewhere underground. Black holes for everybody. Now, my other issues with the game, some are in gameplay, some are in item choices and the way that mapping is done, and some also fall into the lack thereof of choice. Now, I'm reminded of what it feels like to be a kindergartner when I ask to go to recess or something like that, and I realize how much little choice I actually have in the sway of a certain situation. So, it does have this bad illusion of choice being an actual factor in the game. For example, the Water Queen Camellia. It's this old broad that's the leader of this land called Alticia or something, or Atlas. Anyway, old woman Camellia will talk to you before one of the missions in the second act. And the second act, for me, is basically the turning point that made me want to stop playing the game. And I'm sure a lot of other people felt the same way. I'm pretty sure I couldn't have been the only one that felt, especially towards the end of the second chapter, like putting the game down for a bit. But if I was, sue me. Don't do the first one, please. If not, my video, we'll talk about it anyway. We talked about a couple things regarding the current nation state of affairs, an event that was going to happen the next day, and I could have been an absolute tool to this person. I have realized a lot later in my gameplay, because the choice probably wouldn't have mattered. And I only glean this because I know of a certain character that basically your choice on if they go or stay with you affects nothing, and they still go with you anyway, so what's the point of giving you the choice? It's almost if the game was trying to give you a symbolic representation of the current 6 hours of the game you still had left to play. But hey, I can only glean so much. The character is hurt, and there's a choice to either take them with you or not take them with you. And if you take them with you, you just have to suffer with what repercussions it is. However, if you don't take them with you, you also still have to suffer with what repercussions there is. Basically, no matter what happens, the event will play out exactly the same. Once again, this is probably a symbolic representation of what the game is going to be like for the next 6 hours. You should probably take notes, as you will be on this train for 6 hours. Now, these next two, I didn't actually have a problem with up until the second act. Once again, it's like the crap stain or the black sheep of the family in this game. Because that is where the turning point of all this goes wrong. And what I mean by that is the turning point of the train literally flips the train upside down, spins it in a bunch of loops, derails, goes flying off course, and lands you smack dab into the middle of nowhere. Oh, and did I mention consistency? Consistency. Like those words have ever been uttered in a dictionary. See, the game actually tells you up front that you won't be able to return to the main open world of the game for a while. All that being good, the game also succeeds in throwing you a curveball and completely throwing off your sense of understanding of certain fundamentals the game itself tells you. Sort of like if I were to give you a meat jacket and said, hey, go into that pen, but nothing was in it, then you come back out and you do it again, and I say, hey, put that meat jacket on, and I put lions in there, this time they eat your ass. The game will tell you that, hey, you won't be able to return to the mainland for some time. Oh, okay, that's fine. But it also has told you these things for the last, I don't know, 10 or so story missions, and it's always been a very short time. You know, like when they teach kids math, and then they show you a few years later that you've been doing all this hard math for no reason, just to put it into a calculator and make it all easier. Or, you know, use a simple equation. I know a certain spectrum of people watching this video probably are going to get annoyed by that horrible math joke, but still, the point still stands. And something that's so indistinguishable that it's basically not even worth thinking about. But now it shows you the same speech, but then throws a curveball all the way until the end of the game. The curveball I'm referring to is in the form of a black poop maker called Umbra, albeit as cute as he is, didn't show up to the last part of the third act, which, by the way, I didn't even know about till I finished the game, so I never went back to the mainland. Although I was over-leveled for the story anyway, so it was basically a breeze. Didn't matter, because if I wanted to go do more stuff, I couldn't have. Because the game doesn't tell you you can return to the game. But, I digress. Those aren't my only few issues with the game. See, the game has a very piss-poor way of differentiating items to me. Now, this can be a very nitpicky thing for some people, like, oh, you're gonna pick on the blue items, or this item, or that item, and the way they do items. They've been working on this game for 10 years. 10 years, I'll tell you, 10 years. But they'll skip out on the in-game models for certain items, so they only show up as blue, red, or yellow lights. And you can bet your royal blue ass I can call them out on it. Anyways, rewrites and stuff aside, 10 years is not an excuse for the blatant missing narrative points and contextual points for certain characters like Ravis and Quirks or Cox or whatever this immortal dude's name is. If you're expecting an item system like Zelda or any other RPG that has some semblance of the structure or sequence, guess what? You're not going to get that. You're going to get the following. Yellow items for quest items, which can be found everywhere in the overworld. That includes in the worst possible sections, like, I don't know, maybe under a bush where the only indication that you're actually on the item is the X button in the prompt. And while we're here at the X button thing, let me just explain something. And this is the endgame. Stop making it so that X button is to interact with everything. X button is the universal button for jump and do any type of motion. Everyone isn't in 2004 and we all have two thumbs that can press the X button. Getting back on track now. X button is to interact with everything in the game. It's like the most annoying fucking thing when you have to press X button that also does X for everything. X to jump, X to get over cliff, X to do this, X to do that. And it also is the button that interacts with pick up item, get in car, and things like that. So you're just running towards your car or vehicle, just X jump, X jump, X jump. And it's like, nope, gotta wait your motion. Like you're in some type of jump, jump, jump music video or something. Alright everybody, get on the dance floor. Jump, jump, jump. For a little bit of time so you can do that. And it's not generally a little bit, it's like stop all forward motion, wait a second for it to actually work, and then press X. And as much as you might say, oh, that's a nitpicky thing, you can just wait a little bit. It breaks the flow of the game, or especially when I'm trying to pick up an item before the freaking ring of enemies show up, and I'm like, pick up the item, pick up the item, pick up the, and I've got to fight now. I just fought them, and now I gotta fight them again because X wasn't working. And my fingers cramp, and I'm getting really tired, and the two painkillers are president, and oh, I'm sorry, I probably just cut off a large majority of the audience. Oh well, get over it. Back to what I was saying. Reddish pink items are called treasure items. Now, I don't understand why they're called treasure items. See, this is where my problem with the animation team must have come in, because it doesn't feel like they actually put models of certain items in the game that aren't equipped. Hell, there doesn't even seem to be the structure or semblance, not only with just healing items and stuff like that, this is with accessories and weapon items. Because reddish treasure items are generally healing items. They can be any type of healing item or any type of usable item. I've yet to find a red-pink item that's quote-unquote a treasure item that was actually a weapon or something like that. Yet blue items are everything under the damn sun, which means that potions are, not high potions, I mean like potions you get in the beginning of the game, same type of color as you'll find a high tier weapon, which, might I add, is the same type of high tier weapon that you can buy for 2,500 gil, which isn't that hard to get later in the game. These things didn't actually bug me until a certain dungeon in the game, which is where I lost all interest doing side stuff and went straight for the story. And as much of a high point as it seemed to be in this moment, remember that I was extremely dreading every moment of the second chapter. Just saying. See, the Crest Home dungeon, or the Crest Home channels, as I have come to call it, it's the Stockholm channels. Because as long as I spent in there, you could call me one of the mole people, or the daemons that are filled in the air. Okay, so, one question real quick. Just gotta stop. Daemons. Is this a translation error? Because I'm pretty sure it's demons, and they even pronounce it as demons. But whenever you see the word in subtitles, it's daemons. It's D-A-E-M-O-N-S. And it's confusing. Why is it like this? I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird translation error, but I mean, you're gonna try to be fixing the story anyway, so fix it. And after all, who knows? There's probably a reason in one of the plot holes that have been made in this game, like Swiss cheese. I don't know. I think what's even worse about that joke is I'm actually allergic to cheese. I've actually stooped low enough to actually making a joke about my allergies. That's pretty sad for this game, gotta admit. Anyways, the dungeon outlines my last issue, which is a lot of the very enclosed areas of the game are bad for the camera. The action camera works very well in the open world part of the game and seems to be very responsive with the certain attack commands and things like that. Attacking feels great, might I say. So does blocking and things like that. But when you're in an enclosed area, especially in the Stockholm channels, you will start to notice that the camera wiggles around and swings you into things when you're trying to do certain blocks and moves like that. When you're trying to look at a certain enemy so you don't get hit by it, the camera will flip the F out and you'll smash into the wall and you'll be like, I can't see, just before you get haymakered by a goblin laid out on the floor. The boss door is in the middle of the dungeon with no distinguishable way to actually open the door. See, if you look on the map, you'll actually notice, there's 4 keys there. But if you're like me and didn't see that till the second time he walked around the whole damn dungeon, you'll be like, well, what's the keys? I'm looking for keys on the map, I don't see keys. Then you'll walk around another third time as you just accidentally fall down a cliff and you have to climb all the way out of the hole in the middle part of the dungeon. You'll realize that, oh, wait, there's gotta be a key that's out in the open in plain sight. Then you'll travel a 4th time around the dungeon, wasting 2 hours in here, and then you'll look up a video and realize, wait a second, what, it's these switch thingies? The same switch thingies that I've been walking past for the last 2 motherfucking hours? You might say, how did you not notice the switches? You have to walk by one in front of the stairs. Guess what? The prompt doesn't pop up if you're not right in the spot you need to be. Guess what? The game will just let you walk by it without even signifying. Hell, I couldn't get the 3 emo twins to say a damn word after all they've been doing is talking the entire day. Wanna say something now, Prompto, huh? Make a joke? Won't stop and say, hey, that looks like a weird light, or hey, maybe we should look at that switch, or hey, lights on. And you might say, well, why didn't you figure there's 4 switches, so that must mean 4 keys? It fits in so well with the scenery, I guess that's to their credit, that you never really notice it's actually a part of the game that can be interacted with. So, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fuck you. Now, I really like the game, I gotta say. I really like the game. And don't get me wrong, it's a 7 out of 10 to me, mainly because of the contextual issues with story parts. I could get past the majority of the gameplay parts when it matters, but the story parts really break the game for me, at least in terms of narrative. For example, I would have really loved to see more on Ravis's backstory. I would have really loved to see more on a few of the side characters' backstories. I know they're coming as some are coming as DLC, but I also know they're going to try to fix some in story. And for the love of God, please fix the last 2 missions. I was doing those missions for 3 hours, longer than any other mission in the game, and they were like the worst missions I've played this year. As far as games, they were long, drawn out, boring, and annoying, and not that eventful and didn't amount to jack diddly as soon as you finished them. Sort of like another one of these thoughts of videos I might do soon. Hint, hint, wink, wink. It just depends on if everyone likes. Now with that being said, please, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Also, I will be coming out with an update video about the way my current schedule for college and things like that is going to go. I'm going to start streaming more, and I might have more types of these videos, so please stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Goodbye.